Your brain doesn't trigger action by firing signals. It releases a 3-second neural break to every impulse. That hesitation isn't weakness. It's your prefrontal cortex overriding survival reflexes to prevent error. We call it the 3-second pause. You feel it right before you speak in anger. You feel it when your thumb hovers over send. You feel it in the quiet space between the spark and the flame. Most people mistake it for doubt. They rush past it. They fill it with noise. But what if that gap was not a delay, but a doorway? Give it exactly 3 seconds. Watch the urgency dissolve. We live in an era of instant reaction. A notification arrives. A comment stings. A deadline looms. The body prepares to strike. The mind prepares to flee. Everything is designed to pull you forward, to keep you moving, to keep you engaged. But movement without direction is merely exhaustion disguised as progress. The ancients understood this long before they had screens or schedules. They knew that the distance between stimulus and response is where character is forged. It is a narrow bridge. It is easily crowded. Yet it is entirely yours to cross at your own pace. We will return to the exact architecture of this bridge in a moment. First, consider how rarely you actually inhabit it. You scroll past 100 images. You answer 30 messages before noon. You nod through conversations while planning your next sentence. The world rewards speed. It punishes stillness. But stillness is not empty. Stillness is the canvas. When you learn to hold that space, you stop being pushed by circumstances. You begin to steer. The modern landscape does not ask for your attention. It demands your surrender. It trades on your reflex. It profits from your haste. Yet the moment you recognize the gap, you step outside the transaction. You become the observer rather than the observed. You reclaim the ground beneath your feet. You notice how often the day fractures into fragments of other people's urgency. You carry their deadlines. You absorb their panic. You mistake their noise for importance. It takes very little to realize you are running on borrowed time. The bridge does not move. The bridge does not ask you to hurry. It only asks that you place your weight carefully, one step at a time, one breath at a time, one choice at a time. The architecture is ancient. The foundation is steady. You only need to remember how to stand on it. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire at war. Plagues moved through his camps. Betrayals arrived in sealed letters. Every morning, he faced a tide of demands that would break lesser men. He did not respond to each one as it landed. He sat. He wrote. He measured his breath against the weight of the crown. In his journals, he repeatedly returns to the same discipline. Do not let the first impression rule you. Let the second thought examine it. That second thought arrives in the pause. It is the quiet governor. It is the inner architect. Seneca wrote of a similar practice. He observed how quickly anger could consume a man, how easily it could be triggered by a careless word. He advised waiting, not out of fear, but out of precision. A delayed response is a sharper tool. When the mind is hot, the hand shakes. When the mind cools, the line is straight. The Stoics did not preach suppression. They preached spacing. They understood that time reveals truth. What feels urgent at first light often fades by midday. What feels catastrophic in the moment reveals its actual shape when given room to breathe. The empire fell. The letters gathered dust. But the method survived. It survives in the quiet choice to wait, to watch the wave form before stepping into it, to let the impulse crest and fall without chasing it. Think of the senator who receives a sudden insult in the forum. He could strike back. He could raise his voice. He could match the heat with heat. Instead, he breathes. He counts. He lets the words hang in the air until they lose their poison. The crowd expects a fight. He offers them a mirror. They see their own reflection instead. The insult dies. The room settles. The lesson remains. You do not need a toga or a throne to practice this. You only need a kitchen counter and a ringing phone. You only need a crowded street and a sharp remark. The principle is identical. The scale changes. The weight does not. The ancient mind understood that patience is not the absence of action. It is the presence of order. It is the deliberate arrangement of energy. It is the refusal to let the outside dictate the inside. When you hold the space, you are not doing nothing. You are doing everything. You are aligning the compass before you walk. You are reading the sky before you sail. You are letting the dust settle so you can see the floor. Look at your day now. The screen glows. The inbox multiplies. The calendar demands attention before you have finished your coffee. You are asked to react instantly, to defend, to decide, to commit. But speed is a poor substitute for clarity. When you answer in the first second, you are speaking from your oldest wiring. You are defending territory you no longer need to protect. You are fighting shadows on a wall. The 3-second gap interrupts the pattern. It gives the higher brain a chance to speak. It allows you to ask a simple question. Is this mine to carry? Will this matter in an hour? Will this serve the person I am trying to become? You will find that 90% of the noise is just wind passing through leaves. The rest deserves your attention, but only after the wind settles. Social media trains you to perform outrage. Work trains you to prioritize volume. Relationships train you to fill silence with justification. None of these trainings require your immediate surrender. You are not obligated to answer the first ring. You are not required to defend every assumption. You are allowed to step back, to let the moment pass, to observe the shape of it. When you practice this, you change the texture of your life. Conversations deepen. Decisions align. You stop collecting regrets that were born in haste. You begin to build a life that rests on intention. Notice how quickly the world tries to steal your stillness. It calls it laziness. It calls it indecision. It calls it weakness. It is none of those things. It is the quiet rebellion of a mind that refuses to be rented. You own your attention. You lease it to the loudest voice only when you choose. The moment you recognize the choice, you step out of the current. You stand on the bank. You watch the water rush past. You realize you do not have to swim with it. The architecture of the modern day is built on frictionless reaction. Every swipe removes resistance. Every tap removes thought. Every ping removes silence. But friction is where traction happens. You cannot move without it. You cannot learn without it. You cannot build without it. The gap restores the friction. It brings the weight back. It reminds your hands of the tools they hold. It reminds your voice of the words it carries. You begin to speak less. You begin to mean more. You stop performing. You start living. How do you train this? You do not need a retreat. You do not need silence. You need repetition. Start small. When your phone vibrates, count to 3 before lifting it. When a criticism lands, breathe once, twice, 3 times. Speak only after the count. Notice what shifts. You will feel resistance at first. The body wants to run. The mind wants to fix. Let it itch. Let it settle. This is the training ground. Next, apply it to your choices. Before agreeing to a request, pause. Before buying what you do not need, pause. Before sending the reply that feels clever but carries weight, pause. The gap becomes a habit. The habit becomes a posture. The posture becomes your default. You will notice how often others rush. You will stop mirroring their pace. You will walk at your own speed. There will be moments when you must act quickly. That is fine. Even then, 3 seconds buys you accuracy. It separates panic from purpose. It turns a flinch into a step. Try this week. Track how many times you pause before you speak. Count them. Mark them. See which moments felt clearer, which felt lighter. Comment 1, 2, or 3 depending on which pattern you recognized. 1. You pause but doubt yourself. 2. You forget until after the word leaves your mouth. 3. You feel the space and choose it deliberately. Each number is a starting point. None is a failure. We will return to the deeper architecture of this practice in a moment. First, understand what happens when you finally hold it. The mind stops racing. The shoulders drop. The breath finds its natural rhythm. You realize you have been carrying weight that was never yours. You set it down. The room feels larger. The clock slows. You are no longer behind. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. The pause is not an escape. It is an arrival. You stop waiting for permission. You stop waiting for the perfect moment. You recognize that the perfect moment is simply the present one, properly observed. The training does not ask for perfection. It asks for presence. It asks for the willingness to stand still while the world spins. If any of these ideas resonated, I've linked the books in the description. The mistake most people make is treating the pause as empty time. They think it is wasted. They think they are falling behind. But the pause is where the work happens. It is where you separate your values from your reflexes. It is where you choose who you are over what you feel. You will stumble. You will react. You will fill the space with noise again. That is expected. Return to the count. Return to the breath. Return to the space between. We will come back to this truth whenever the world demands your speed. Remember the emperor riding by candlelight. Remember the philosopher watching the angry man. Remember that every reaction is a door, and you hold the handle. You do not have to open it immediately. You can look through the glass. You can feel the draft. You can decide if it is worth crossing. The world will keep spinning. Notifications will keep arriving. Opinions will keep forming. You are not required to chase them. You are only required to stay in the gap long enough to see them clearly. When you do, urgency loses its grip. Clarity takes its place. And you finally understand why the hesitation was never a flaw. It was always the design. The architecture of your mind was built for spacing, not for sprinting. You were never meant to outrun the storm. You were meant to stand in it and watch the rain fall. The ground will soak it. The sun will return. You will be exactly as you are. The final insight is simpler than you expect. You do not need to change your life. You only need to change your pace. Slow it down. Hold the space. Let the noise pass. The bridge is waiting. Your brain doesn't trigger action by firing signals. It releases a 3-second neural break to every impulse. That hesitation isn't weakness. It's your prefrontal cortex overriding survival reflexes to prevent error. We call it the 3-second pause. Give it exactly 3 seconds. Watch the urgency dissolve.